All right. Thank you for joining us today for our session around maximizing your HubSpot investment. I'm Shane O'Connell. I've been working in the HubSpot space for about 10 years now, helping organizations deploy and better utilize HubSpot. Um, Organizations of all shapes and sizes, of all different industries. So, really here to help uh, you and your organization maximize your HubSpot investment. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So first, I want to jump into the data infrastructure of HubSpot, meaning, and more holistically, how an organization should be thinking and framing HubSpot. Um, Really, what it comes down to is HubSpot is just a series of objects that you have 100% control over. So these objects are the objects that I have on the screen here are the most commonly used. There are more, but I would say that these are the ones that you have the most control over, and HubSpot has built in a lot of functionality right off the backs of. So that looks like a company record, a contact record, deals, tickets, and then you have the ability to create custom objects that look like a deal, that look like a contact, that look like a company record, that look like a ticket, but are dedicated to your own environment. So these objects house all of your data across your business. And that data is what's going to connect you to your customers. It's going to connect you to your internal team. The data is so important, and it's all about how you properly set up that data, how you manage that data, and how do you build a source of truth for your organization. So let's dive into a couple different chunks here. First, we're going to look at how can this data be used. First, we're going to look at within HubSpot. So the data within these objects can be used for marketing and sales personalization, lead scoring and prioritization, automation triggers, reporting and dashboards, lifecycle management, operational processes, custom object usage, service personalization. So when we think about, you know, these are not the only ways that you could leverage the data inside of HubSpot, but these are kind of the main key areas within HubSpot. I would say that organizations spend most of their time on. So when you think about the objects and the data that's in there, these are the things that you're going to be able to capitalize on and do more with. Now, it's also important to note that there are ways to leverage the data that lives inside your HubSpot tenant outside of HubSpot. What can that look like? So data sync with other systems. Maybe you're running an ads campaign and you want to add targeting or suppression based on contacts in their data that lives within your database within HubSpot. BI tools, business intelligence tools, just like Microsoft Power BI, you could leverage the data in those tools as well. Direct sales enablement, customer success programs, of course, for strategic decision making, cross-channel personalization, and then custom app development. So a lot of organizations will leverage HubSpot data to build out a custom app for their organization. They'll bake those data sets into the application to make the application that they're building more personalized, and as well as get better tracking for how a particular customer is engaging with your app. So again, these aren't like all of the ways that you can leverage the data outside of HubSpot, but these are the core ways that the data has been used. So where does the data come from? HubSpot does make this part easy. It comes from various places. It comes from forms, comes from conversational inbox, comes from general HubSpot tools, workflows, website tracking, if you have cookies on. Highly recommend putting on website tracking. If you don't have a website built within the HubSpot CMS, or you have it built in WordPress or something like that, just take the tracking code that HubSpot provides and just bake it into the header of your website. That'll give you so much information on how a contact actually gets engaged on your website. Gives your marketing team a better understanding of the flow or a journey a particular contact is taking as it engages with your brand. Third-party apps. So HubSpot has a whole directory of third-party apps that it connects to, even some of its competitors like Salesforce and beyond. So that third-party tooling can actually get baked in to HubSpot to provide you some insight or deeper insight and provide different data from that third-party tool. Integrations and APIs. That's if you're building something custom. Email interactions, custom code with the operations hub, manual entry, meaning data provided by your actual internal team, manual import. Now that's maybe you don't have an integration, but you went to a live event and now you have an Excel sheet of attendees that came. Well, inside that Excel sheet, you want to be able to put in additional layers of information that give more context to someone. Well, you can manually import that information into HubSpot, and HubSpot will be able to read that data. And then lastly, you have the property calculation. So if you build a custom property that has calculations baked in, that is a great way to see, to get data. Okay, so again, these aren't the only ways, the only places where data comes from with HubSpot. Again, these are the core areas in which you get the data baked into your HubSpot database. All right, so now we want to jump into setting up your objects for success. And what does that look like? It's important. This is the most important part of HubSpot. It's really broken out into two main areas, or at least the two main areas that I'm going to focus on today. There's a couple others, but for today, let's focus on these two areas. They're the prime examples of how you can set up your objects for success. One of which is custom properties, and the other is association labels. We're going to focus on the custom properties here. We're going to take you through a journey, give you some examples and things like that. But first, let's talk about what we classify them as intent pillars. So what we mean by that is, what is the intent in which you are creating custom properties for these properties? The way we see it is that there's a couple key intent pillars to always consider when creating custom properties. So one of which is marketing intelligence. The next is for sales enablement. So custom properties for marketing intelligence, custom properties for sales enablement, custom properties for operational productivity, customer service and success, finance and RevOps, product or usage tracking, and then, of course, strategic planning and executive reporting. So when we look at these seven, you kind of want to, as you're creating these custom properties, you really want to try to have your framing be around how you can accomplish these different pillars, or at least where do you classify this custom property. So you have this custom property in your head, or someone on your team has this custom property in their head. How can it be leveraged? It doesn't have to be, hey, this property is just for marketing intelligence and now we have to create a new one. It can be something where, hey, this is used for marketing intelligence, but it's also used for our sales team as well, or this is for marketing intelligence and it's also used for our operational productivity. That's totally fine. They crisscross together. But when you think about the intent of your custom properties, try to think in these buckets. They're kind of like a higher level uh, way of thinking about your custom properties that you're going to bake into your objects. All custom properties can be baked into automations. Uh, it's really important to call out. So every single custom property that you build can be used as an enrollment trigger for workflow automations that you build into the future. It's really important. It's what's going to set your objects up for success. It's what's going to set your organization up for success while leveraging HubSpot. So let's jump into these examples, right, of custom properties under these buckets. So we're going to start off with the company object and then the custom properties that kind of align to these divisions or intent pillars, if you will. So for this company object, we would create a custom property for the company record under marketing intelligence. We would say, hey, this is the service intent. So this means, hey, this is a drop-down select where we get a good understanding of landscape design. And now this is just an example of some of the industries, the organizations that registered. So landscape design, maybe warehouse management software, legal translation. So there's maybe there's a drop-down select of key service offerings that your organization provides services for. And this custom property that would bake into the company record would either automatically get applied via a set of rules that you put in a workflow, or it's something that your team manually imports. So if they have discussions with this particular company, well, your sales team can start marking, the service intent. So where are they going with your organization? Sales enable it. I know there's some financial institutions on here. When we talk about an AUM bracket as a custom property, so how much are of assets under management do they have, right, for that company record? So this is just an example. You can have it be a financial range of 10 to 50 million, 51 to 100 million, to 101 to plus million. That'll give you an idea from a sales perspective where this organization lies with the assets that they are under management. Allows you to maybe enroll certain company records into sequences that you have put up, things like that. So then we get into the operational productivity. Now let's say you are a landscaping company and you have, service area zones. And, out of the box, HubSpot does a really good job of, putting in, the company's state or city, but that doesn't really tell you holistically where this particular organization is located as it relates to your zoning. Each organization operates different. So maybe you want to build a custom property to kind of align to that. So you'd build a service area zone. You have south suburbs, north suburbs, downtown, and those are your classifications, right, of where this particular organization is zoned comparatively to how you are structured. Customer success and service. Has this company completed all of its training? It's yes, no, or in progress. Pretty straightforward there. Finance and RevOps. Maybe we look at an organization's annual contract value. And maybe we're not looking just at one deal to the company. Maybe we're looking at all the deals that we have open or closed won with this particular organization. So we're doing a cumulative number where we say, hey, this is the annual contract value across all the services that we're selling within this organization. That's a great property for your finance team to get an understanding of where this organization's at as far as a revenue standpoint. Product or usage tracking. Maybe you have an application that you're running. Maybe you have a bookings that that app is trying to function with this company. So average monthly bookings number input, real simple, real straightforward of a custom property. And maybe that's something that you have automation for. All of these properties that we're talking about. Maybe it's something we have an enrollment trigger for, or maybe it's something you rely 100% on your team for manual entry with that high touch scenario. Strategic planning and executive reporting. What is the revenue potential tier, right? Maybe there's maybe across your teams and the engagements that they're having with this organization, maybe this is a manual entry where they say, hey, we believe that there's a high revenue potential here that we maybe are not capitalizing on, so we're going to market it as high. Or maybe it's something where we have a workflow that's calculating how much they've spent with us, what they've indicated, a plethora of properties that are baked into a company record. Maybe we're calculating their revenue potential on that company record, high, medium, low. And now for executive reporting, you have a good breakdown across your whole database. You have, let's say you have 100 organizations or company records that are in the high tier, you have 5 in the medium tier, and you have 1 in the low. Well, let's look at that 100 inside the high, and let's start to break them down and do some strategic planning around those 100, and let's spend less time on maybe the 11 that are sitting in the high or sitting in the medium or low, right? Something to consider. Okay, so then we move on to the contact record. Let's jump into maybe some of the marketing intelligence custom properties that you may want to build. So HubSpot does a really good job of like job titles and departments and things like that out of the box. But what we've found is that a lot of organizations have their own classifications for what a particular person's role at their organization is. These are just example inputs, drop-down selects, where it's, portfolio manager, warehouse manager, housing coordinator. Most organizations know how they classify their contacts. And depending on those classifications on those contact records, we will do some form of marketing to those segmented audiences. So having that contact role is extremely important to bake in and to have it be relevant to how your business operates. We get into the sales enablement. Maybe we have decision authority as a property, and we have, this contact is a decision maker, this contact is an influencer, and this contact is an evaluator. They're all important, but when we talk about, moving a deal along, maybe the decision maker is the most important contact to have in the room as you're moving a deal through its stages. HubSpot, again, does a good job of having out-of-the-box functionality, but again, having it be tailored to your brand, to your organization, is extremely important. And it's going to set these objects up for success. That's the whole point of this. So operational productivity, client relationship owner on this contact record, right? Maybe the way that you set up your client relationship status is across multiple teams, and maybe key contacts within an organization work with different individuals on your team in order to onboard them, or maybe to drive success with that organization. So what you have the ability to do in HubSpot is create a HubSpot user selection property, which if you turn on, you are enabling visibility for that particular HubSpot user. So as soon as they get tagged on a contact record, You can put in settings where they can only see contacts that they're tagged in, or now they've just become aware of a particular contact within a particular organization that maybe they didn't have before. Furthermore, if you have that HubSpot user um, record, you can actually enroll those into and call them into steps inside of a workflow where you say, hey, I want to assign every client relationship owner these 3 tasks as soon as that client relationship owner is known. And it'll automatically apply that individual and assign them tasks. Customer success and service, we look at a satisfaction score potentially. Maybe it's something you baked into a survey or to a web form. Scale input, nothing crazy there. Finance, RevOps, important one here, is this a billing contact or is it not, right? And more often than not, it's going to be a no, but when it's a yes, it matters the most, right? Especially for finance. Product or usage tracking, have they even has this contact downloaded the app that we provide? Yes or no. Again, if it's a no, it's most likely blank. But if it's yes, that's when it starts to really matter. Strategic planning and executive reporting. This is a good one. Customer advocacy potential. So this could be something where you're maybe based on their usage, and your own tracking that you're doing, and enrollments that you're putting them in through workflows. Or maybe it's something where your team is manually entering. What is their likelihood of, maybe doing a case study with you as an organization that you work with? What is the likelihood that maybe they're leaving you a Google review, right? What is the likelihood that maybe they'll do a video discussion with you talking about your services or your product? High, medium, low gives executives a report of how many they can go with for or maybe how many case studies that they're going to develop for the year, right? Okay, so then we get into the deal object. So again, marketing intelligence, we're looking at initial inquiry type. Now, HubSpot again does an amazing job with out of the box properties, with record source, record deal source 1, 2, and 3. I believe. I think there's like a total of 3. But those are great. They're automated. Um, there's tracking that HubSpot does, but it sometimes doesn't provide the whole picture or the holistic picture of how you would actually refer to how a deal actually came to be. So we set up the infrastructure so that you have a custom property where you have, free trial, consultation, RFP. The record source may say, they went to the consultation page link first, and that means that's going to get assigned the consultation, but they actually didn't. They eventually moved over to the free trial without actually doing anything with the consultation. So the HubSpot record source is nice, and I definitely wouldn't exclude that data, but having the human touch point here to kind of understand where this particular deal came from a sales rep's eyes is important here. Speaking of sales enablement, unique deal type. So this is another one where you may want to highlight, or you may want to do inside of an enrollment trigger on a workflow. But is this a new implementation? Is this an expansion of an existing organization that you're working with, or is this just simply a renewal? These are just examples of, okay, how do we break up our deals? How do we look at these from a reporting standpoint to kind of give us a good understanding of where is our business coming in at? Operational productivity, maybe as part of your pre-sales engagement, as you're working to close the deal, maybe you're working with a sales engineer in order to move the deal forward. This is another opportunity for us to bring in a HubSpot user property That sales engineer, can get assigned at a certain stage automatically, either before the sales team even wants them in there, just to give them a heads up, or before they actually have to take any action, I should say. Um, or maybe it's the sales rep manually entering it, um, and assigning on that end. Um, Once they're assigned, that sales engineer, that pre-sales engineer will then get notified. They're able to now access that deal. They're able to jump in, see all the context for that particular deal, and actually start to take action. Customer success and service, user count promised. So a lot of times organizations in the sales process, they commit to things at the beginning and then start to dwindle off. So one of the ways that we like to track, especially if you're a usage-based organization, is kind of like a user count. What did they promise in the beginning of all of this? They said that they would have maybe 50 of their users leveraging your tool or taking advantage of your services. But then when the deal actually came to close, they dropped down to 15. Well, it's important that there was a 50 number for your customer success and service team. So now they know, okay, well, we're working to upsell this customer into getting more of their users on board. And what is that number, right? So it's important for them to know that information, especially if you're in a software-based organization, or a user-based. User count is actually important for you. Finance and RevOps, deal profit margin. HubSpot does have some out of the box. Again, maybe this is a little bit more tailored to you. Maybe there's some additional calculations that you build off of this. Product or usage tracking. Was there a demo environment set up? Right, yes or no? If there was and the deal closed, fantastic. If it wasn't set up, no, but the deal closed one, perfect. At the end of each quarter, you can look at, okay, does the demo environment actually help, right? Which is kind of leaning into strategic planning and executive reporting, but maybe you have a high level deal source baked in. So again, they have these baked in, but maybe there's additional layer that's more tailored to your brand that you want to bake in to a deal source. Okay, let's look at some tickets. So when you're thinking about tickets for marketing intelligence, maybe there's customer milestones that are being accomplished as you're working on these tickets. Tickets don't always have to be, I think the common outlook on a ticket is that they are strictly for support. We're only going to use tickets for support, and that's it. I would challenge you to think about other ways that you can use a ticket. Could be a support ticket where the customer is submitting a support ticket. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what if you wanted to use those tickets to manage your onboarding experience? What if you wanted to use those tickets to actually manage the partner relationship that you have, maybe the partner channel relationship that you may have within your organization? Where you're setting up a ticket for, either the partner company record or a contact within that partner company record to help manage and house particular information around your engagement with that particular partner contact record. But you do it in a ticket because there's more capabilities there. So when we talk about customer milestone, maybe it's around a service aspect, or straight up support aspect. But really what we're looking at this for in this particular example, and what we mean by customer milestone, is the onboarding experience. So did they get their kickoff? Was their kickoff complete? Was their training scheduled? This becomes like a checkbox for organizations to have their team check off. And what that does is it tells marketing, hey, marketing, create these beautiful email templates that notify the customer of a successful kickoff, or hey, you've scheduled your training. This is fantastic. Here are 10 things that you should know about uh, when you get into these trainings, right? It gives marketing the ability to be more proactive in their communication, more personalized, more action oriented, more intent oriented in their communications. When we talk about sales enablement on a ticket, a lot of times in the process of either supporting a customer or onboarding a customer, the customer may allude, or contacts may allude, to upsell opportunities. Now, I know the sales team may not be in these tickets, but maybe it's a partner success manager or a customer success manager that's in on these tickets, and they type in, a long, either a short or a long description of the upsell opportunity. As soon as that gets submitted, maybe you put that in a workflow that notifies the sales rep that closed the deal. Hey, here's an upsell opportunity identified by one of our customer success team members. Maybe the sales rep has a really strong relationship and could just get engaged with that organization right away. Or maybe it's something that they try to put into a email sequence that they may have set up for that upsell opportunity. Operational productivity, um, on a ticket, maybe it's the department owner. Now, HubSpot again has teams inside of HubSpot, which you can assign, but a lot of times people don't actually put their department classifications on their users inside of HubSpot. So you want to have an additional one that's more aligned to what you're doing. IT, CSM, implementation, whatever the department that you want to classify. But this gives you an idea of how many tickets are sitting in at the CSM, how many tickets are sitting in IT, how many tickets are sitting in implementation, et cetera, et cetera. Success plan documentation under customer success and service. This is a file property, so it's extremely valuable. A file property is extremely valuable because mainly for communication. So let's say as part of your onboarding experience, one member of the team that maybe isn't so customer forward or customer facing has designed and set up a success plan documentation. Well, they can load that document into this property. Once that document is loaded into that property, it can run through a workflow that then notifies the customer success manager that this file was uploaded. Customer success manager jumps in and reviews the file, loves what it has in it, and is ready to send it over to the customer. You can have an additional property that says, hey, ready to send, boom, clicks it, and then your marketing team has put together a beautiful template that allows you to bring in personalization of that file's URL into the email. So you have this really cohesive, low touch across multiple team members in order to get that file into the customer's hand in a more automated and robust way. It's nice. Marketing loves it because they can have control over the types of communications that go out as it relates to your brand. Finance and RevOps. So we have contract review. Maybe as part of your onboarding, finance and legal really wants you to maybe re-review or review a contract with this particular organization that's on the ticket or the particular contact that's on the ticket. And they want to track that. They want to see who's actually doing the contract review. Did it happen yet? Is it in progress? Did it not happen? And then maybe there's a why option on why it didn't happen. Things like that. Product or usage tracking. Maybe there's modules that you have built into your product that you're offering. Did they want to build a custom one? Maybe custom module being onboarded, yes or no. Very specific there. Strategic planning and executive reporting. After onboarding or during onboarding, you have a go live date. put that on the ticket. That'll allow robust reporting. That'll give everybody an understanding of how many clients are going live in the month of May or this week or this day, right? It gives everybody a good idea from a productivity standpoint, a strategic planning standpoint, where the organization sits. So there's a good chunk of landscaping organizations in registered for this. So when we think about a custom object, I was thinking maybe a project site might be a good way to build out a custom object. Um, Now, the thought process there was that you're working with organizations that own multiple properties, and really you're not looking at it as that one relationship with that customer. You're looking at it as a set of relationships across multiple properties, right? And you got to kind of track those things. Each property is unique. Each property has its own unique challenges put in place. So my suggestion was a custom object referred to as project site. And in here, you'd have your own set of properties inside this custom object. You would have a site type. Is it green roof? Is it parkway? Is it a courtyard? Is it residential? Maybe it's commercial, yada, 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 all those different site types. Sales enablement, which, marketing intelligence, each site type would be able to provide more context to the marketing team on, hey, organization A has 20 sites and they're all courtyards. So let's craft up our messaging for the courtyards, right? Sales enablement, we have the service package, maintenance only design plus build. Maybe each site has its own service package that it's taking advantage of. Maybe that's how the deal was structured with that particular organization. So having that known on each project site will help sales look at upsell opportunities in any particular customer. Operational productivity, maybe site size, maybe square footage is a property within these sites. Just to get a good understanding of what's the square footage that you're covering, or maybe it's the whole square footage versus the covering square footage. Customer success and service. What was the last service date? It's a date selector property. Now, it's important to call out, if you have people on the ground, actually deploying these or actually implementing these services, HubSpot can go with them. The custom objects are accessible via the mobile app. They're also accessible on your mobile device in the web browser as well. So you're actually able to provide feedback on the ground to these custom objects to provide more insight on what happens next. Finance and RevOps. Maybe each site under this organization has a different billing frequency. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's yearly. So having that baked in to the custom object project site would be valuable. Services utilized under the product or usage tracking. Maybe that's a multi-select property similar to the service package, but more focused maybe on a product. Strategic planning and executive reporting. Again, having a client satisfaction score on a number scale, and maybe it's focused on the site, because there's different people at these different sites that you're working with. What's their overall happiness and satisfaction at this point? Okay. So those were examples of custom properties. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat along any part of the process here. We got into custom properties. We have association labels to jump into next. So association labels let you define the role or purpose of an object in relation to another. So it actually creates, and I think this visual does a pretty decent job of kind of explaining what's happening here, is that uh, you can actually, these objects don't have to work in silos anymore. Back in the day, HubSpot used to have them work in silos. Maybe about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, if my math is right, they rolled out the association label. Now it's a lot more robust. Now you're able to have companies associated with deals in a specific way, maybe companies associated with contacts in a very specific way, tickets, deals, et cetera, et cetera. So let's dive into these examples. So you have a company to contact association. So that means there's multiple companies and multiple contacts associated with each other. So maybe within one organization or multiple organizations, there's a primary contact or set of primary contacts. Maybe there's a billing contact. Maybe there's a decision maker, an IT admin, a facility manager. Um, these are all association labels that would live on the contact within a company record. Association labels can get pulled into any workflow. So you could say, hey, I want to pull all my decision makers on organizations of such and such size and send them a communication or send them an email all within a workflow. So it makes it easier for you to kind of control the narrative and segment your audiences. Let's look at a couple more examples. Deal to contact. So maybe you still have the point of contact. You maybe have a procurement lead associated with that particular deal. Maybe you have the signer who's actually going to be the one signing. And then you have like the evaluator, who's the person involved in decision process, but not the final signer. Uh, each one of these association labels would rest on the contact, onto the deal, so you would know exactly the correlation between that particular contact and that deal. Contact to tickets, maybe you have one for the submitter of the ticket, and maybe you have one for the implementation lead. So if you're doing like onboarding, maybe there's a specific contact that's actually engaged with you the most to actually make it all happen in their organization, within their organization. Company to deal. So this one I see very often in organizations that have like a partner relationship, is where that partner relationship actually starts to become a little bit more robust, and you're able to provide them some insight into your relationship, which I know partners, especially bigger ones, really love, and maybe OEMs. So what we could do here is we can associate multiple company records to maybe one deal. And what we want to say is, hey, here's the end customer. Maybe the end customer is McDonald's. The partner of record is maybe uh, maybe a service provider that you have, or a broker that you have that you're working with. And then you have the OEM, maybe it's a supplier or manufacturer. And then you have maybe a billing entity. Maybe there's some complex legal structures in place that you'll need to associate those aspects. Again, these association labels can be brought into any workflow to basically get a better understanding of the relationship with the company records within those deals. So you can also have association records with each other. So you can have a company to company, you can have a deal to a deal. Each deal may have a sub deal that you're working at the same time. Maybe it just as an example for a deal, now that I'm thinking about it, you can have maybe you're quoting the customer different terms. right? So you have a 5-year, a 3-year, and a 2-year, or 1 year. You can actually bake in uh, and associate deals based on term count. Maybe you have some processes in place that define, what your term count is. So company to company, maybe, hey, I know that this particular customer has a supplier, they have their raw material vendor, and they have a logistics provider. Well, maybe you want to track those. Maybe there's multiple for each. Maybe there's only one, but either way, maybe you want to track that for your end customer. So when organizations come in to see what that environment looks like, you're almost starting to build like a family tree, if you will, of all the organizations that this particular customer may be working with, which enables your marketing team to provide better communications, more personalized communications, but it also allows your sales team to be well informed as they go into any maybe upsell environment or sales environment. Okay, so now we've kind of laid the groundwork here for your objects. Let's get into activating your object model, leveraging automation, personalization across the business. We jumped into this. We jumped into the objects. We talked about the data. We talked about where it's coming from, all those beautiful things. We talked about custom properties. Along the journey, I talked about how all these things can get brought into workflows. So let's jump into those. These workflows, again, and this is why it's so important, if there's anything you walk away with today in this discussion, is that when you think of HubSpot, think of those objects. They're going to keep on coming back. So when we think about workflows, think about them in all based on objects. So you have, contact-based workflows, you have company-based workflows, you have deal-based workflows, you have ticket-based workflows, you got custom object-based workflows. And in some instances, and actually in I think all of the examples I'm about to jump into with these workflows, there's cross-object based. So you are starting out with a contact, but then at the end of the workflow, you've created a deal and maybe created a ticket, or maybe you created a new company, who knows? So here's an example of a contact-based workflow. You want to start with the goal, automatically update lifecycle stage and send onboarding emails once a contact engages. Inside each workflow, you have a trigger. So let's say the contacts associated deal moves to closed won. Now this is where this trigger actually could be leveraging some association labels as well. So once you kind of get there, you jump into the steps. If life cycle stage is not equal to customer, then set life cycle stage to customer because they closed one. Send welcome to, maybe product or company name, your company name, email. Wait 2 days, send it onboarding guide. Maybe you have a guide that you could send them. Create tasks for assigned rep, follow up to confirm onboarding call. And then fifth, enroll contact into onboarding nurture sequence. Now, taking a workflow and bringing it into a sequence, you can only really do that in sales enterprise. So got to have sales enterprise to do that. Goal, now this is a company-based one. Kick off internal account planning and service readiness when a new strategic customer is onboarded. So company, property, customer tier equals strategic, and life cycle stage equals customer, and onboarding started equals no. Okay, those are your enrollment triggers. Now steps, set internal flag, update property, onboarding started equals yes. So now they're getting started. Notify account team internal email to account owner. You've been assigned to a new strategic account. Here's the company name. Begin onboarding process. It'll create a ticket, and then it'll assign internal task for CSMs and tasks for the ops team. Deal-based goal, create internal tasks based on contract value and move deals automatically. Workflow trigger deal, enter stage contract sent, and contract value is greater than 100,000. Well, the steps here would be create a task, loop in finance to review payment terms, send legal template to client. If contract value greater than 100K, assign task, notify executive sponsor, and then delay 3 days. If deal is still in the same stage, maybe have it send a reminder to the rep. Ticket-based goal, trigger customer success task when onboarding tickets are created. So ticket is created in the onboarding pipeline. Now let's create the tasks or create the steps that go into it. So create the internal task, prepare kickoff call agenda. If service tier is premium, assign task to CSM, send personalized onboarding video, delay 5 days, create the task, follow up to confirm training attendance. If training session remaining is 0, move ticket to go live review stage. These are just examples of what we could do when you jump into workflows. Let's bring back the custom object because custom objects are able to be brought into workflows. Automatically initiate implementation tasks when a new project site record is created and marked as ready. Okay, so trigger would be custom object equals project site. Property status is ready for implementation. Project type is green roof, or the service tier is premium. Update, so then the steps go update custom object property, kickoff initiated equals yes. Set custom object property, kickoff target date equals create date plus 7 days. So that means from the time it was created, now mark it as 7 days from that time. Send an internal notification email to project manager. New project site marked ready, and then you put the project site name. Prepare for kickoff. Create ticket in onboarding pipeline. So again, all these areas are amazing to really take full advantage of HubSpot. Now, if you don't have automation put in place today in your HubSpot tenant, let's talk, see about ways that we can work around it. Lead scoring. I know a lot of you had questions around this. Lead scoring is a method of assigning points to contacts or companies with enterprise based on who they are, what they do. This score helps organizations prioritize sales efforts, trigger workflows, qualify leads automatically. Now, there's two main areas in which we want to think about what we want to set up or what the goal for lead scoring is trying to accomplish. And again, they don't work independently, but there's definitely a division here. One is for are they a fit? Are they a fit for your organization? And then what's their intent? So are they engaging with your brand? And if so, let's give them points for it. So if it's a fit, here's an example. Let's say they're a director, their job title is director. Well, that puts them into a different decision-making class, so they would get 20 points. Now, on the opposite end, job title equals student or intern. Maybe let's deduct 20 points from that particular lead scoring methodology. A lot of Chicago brands here today. So if the contact is in Chicago, maybe let's give them 5 points, right? We know they're in the area. Easy for us to get an in-person. Make it call it a day. Give them 5 points. Intent. When we talk about intent, the engagement with the brand. So contact fills out a demo form. Let's give them 20 points. That's a big deal. They're trying to get the deal, or they're trying to get a demo. They're trying to see what the product does. They obviously see the challenge. They obviously know that there's a solution, or they're trying to figure out a solution for their challenge. Let's give them 20 points. Let's give them 10 points for if a contact visited the pricing page. So if they view the pricing page, let's give them 10 points just for doing that. Now, if they view the pricing page and they click on the demo form, they're getting 30 points. If they came back to visit the website three plus times, maybe let's give them 15 points and let's look at them, because now it's they're not just they didn't just get to us by happenstance or just by like one event and then that's it. They called it a day. They came back to the site 3 more times on three separate occasions. Let's give them some points because there is obviously some intent there. Okay, before I close off today, I just want to call out a few items. Operations Hub Pro is a great way to jailbreak HubSpot. Um, it is a great way to uh, execute JavaScript within workflows. So if you already are familiar with workflows, the Operations Hub Pro allows you to build out actual custom code, JavaScript inside of your workflows to actually do more and get more out of the HubSpot tool. So it's something to consider. The price point is a little high, but at the same time, what you're getting is definitely worth it. Another big announcement is that the Sales Enterprise um, license has lowered by significant by a significant percentage. Now it's only $150 per user per month. With this, you're looking at custom object, the ability to create custom objects, which if you are just on starter, if you're just on uh, uh, professional, you won't have access to. So being able to create those project sites and all those beautiful things, you would be able to do with enterprise now. Advanced permissions, so now you would have the ability to actually govern specific properties. So if you don't want visibility for certain properties that you're baking into tickets or custom objects, you can actually have control over who can see it into certain individuals only, a team, et cetera, et cetera. Another aspect of the sales enterprise now is the ability to have a enrollment workflow, or excuse me, an automated workflow that can enroll a contact directly into a sales sequence, which is huge, huge. The main difference between your marketing email and your sales sequencing is just basically which server is getting sent or what server is getting used to send the email. So servers are going to have a better, you have a higher likelihood of it going into their main inbox if you send directly through a sales sequence versus using the HubSpot servers on the marketing email. Just calling it out. Private apps. So every HubSpot tenant, no matter what plan you have, you do have the ability to create a private app. Now, that allows you to set up API calls. You're able to give your private app scopes. Now, I think there are some layering to the scopes. Different plans have a broader scope and have a broader reach of scope. But with your private app, you're able to actually get more out of HubSpot with leveraging a custom code capability. So if there's a third-party app that you're working with today that doesn't integrate, you can actually use your private app to override and integrate. Now, if that third-party tool has a private app as well, I mean, boom, we could build one for you. Okay, so then I want to get into quickly, because I know we're at time here, but we are offering HubSpot Diagnostic and Roadmap service, where we come in, we discover your business and process needs. We then assess your HubSpot environment. We then design your ideal object and data structure, and then we build out a roadmap to help you get there. Happy to help you. This is a simple service to take advantage of. Happy to schedule some time and jump in to your environment. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Um, have a good day, and we will see you on the next discussion. Thank you.